We have today Dr. Stinnett. Dr. Stinnett is the director of the EDD program here at Point Park University. All of you who are watching this probably know who he is because he is the person who heads our department in that particular regard. But there's somebody that he and I both want to thank. I'm Dr. Mitch Nichols, but we want to thank Dr. Darlene Marnich. She is the chair of the department, has been chair of our department for a number of years, and there are certain things that we try to provide for our students that we could not do so without her guidance and without her blessing. So we want to make sure that we pay some kind of tribute to her for the hard work and the stamp of approvals, because she is pro-student, and that's what we're about today. So Dr. Stinnett, let's begin to talk about the dissertation handbook. Why the handbook in the first place?
I think it's a great guidebook for our students. As you know, you've chaired some of our committees as well. Our students often have questions and need guidance, and the handbook actually represents what the students need to do to successfully complete the dissertation. You know, as we've said in the past, there's two parts to our program. One is leadership, the second part's the research and the dissertation. This handbook helps students really navigate our system. And quite frankly, everything we're going to talk about this evening is actually in the handbook. So it's a great resource for students.
Typically, students get this handbook when they come to our orientation. All new students come to the orientation, they get several handbooks. In some of our other videos, we've talked about the dissertation process, we've talked about the practicum. Those are also represented in handbooks. But now we want to make sure that they turn back to, throughout the program, the doctoral handbook, because as you've indicated, it covers a number of things. In there, we also have the dissertation courses. What are those courses?
So for our dissertation handbook and the doctoral handbook, we do list our dissertation courses. So in year 3, our students really are immersed in the dissertation process. The first course they will go through is Intro to Research Writing. That is with their chair, and they really start the process of writing. Now, I will tell you, we've learned through the years that our program has evolved. We really start the dissertation the minute they come on campus and begin. But really that third year, the dissertation, Intro to Research Writing is the first course. The next course they want to go through is seminar. And again, they're working with the chair, but we have sessions for them to come and meet with either you or I in a seminar type setting where we go over some do's and don'ts of the dissertation. Then we get into comprehensive presentation. That's for students to finish their practicum presentations if they haven't completed it. And then they go into dissertation writing 1, 2, and 3, and they're ready to defend and finish the program completely.
You and I heard one student who has finished the program say that when she first began to look at this doctoral program, she thought it was overwhelming. But that's why, again, we go to the handbooks. We lay it out there in those handbooks. We make it make sense. We make sure that they're surrounded by people as the director, as cohort coordinators, as chairs, so that they'll understand. Other faculty members are involved in this process so that they're able to do certain things. What do we know about graduation information?
So in the handbook, we do have graduation information. We have a process that you have to complete all the courses prior to graduation. So when you complete your proposal defense, you become a doctoral candidate. You complete an IRB. Once you've completed the IRB and the university has given you permission to conduct your study, you collect your data, and then you write chapters 4 and 5, you defend successfully, and then you sign off on your paperwork, and then you're prepared to graduate.
Now the IRB, as we know, comes after the dissertation proposal defense. What's that context for the proposal defense? How many chapters?
So for a proposal defense, the first 3 chapters are covered. And that is actually a closed defense with just the committee and just the student. Once they have successfully completed that and have given a broad overview of chapters 1, 2, and 3, the committee at that point and the chair will deem them successful, either with or without modifications, and then they can move forward with the IRB process.
One of the things that I like, since I've been around the department and involved with the department over the first few years of its inception, is there are so many tools that have been put at the disposals of students. We talk handbooks, but when they begin to connect online through Blackboard, and we're transitioning over the next so many months to Schoology, So they'll see a lot of things that we put up there in terms of artifacts, documents that they'll be able to see. Also giving students, as they're going through this whole dissertation process, proposal included, they'll see a lot of opportunities where they can view some videos from students who've gone through that process. They're not going to be left out there alone.
That's right. So on our PLC site, which will be on the new platform for students, there are proposal defense videos, there are defense videos, there are PowerPoint slideshows of proposal defenses and defenses, as well as these videos we're making for instructional purposes. So we really believe in Darlene's vision of being a student-centered program has really come to fruition. We're very proud of that fact, and we have those resources available. So I think it's a critical component for our program.
The handbook talks about the practicum presentation. I've already had a student ask me over the past 24 hours, when do I have to do this presentation? What does it consist of?
So once they've finished year 2, we recommend that then the summer of year 2, they conduct their practicum presentations. Now we discussed that in the first video, but that's really a good time to do that. We offer that early type of presentation so students can concentrate on their dissertation in lieu of that practicum presentation. But we also offer in fall another opportunity to, spring 2, the opportunity to complete the practicum presentation.
One of the great things about that, Dr. Stinnett, is as students come into the program, either as 3-year students or 2-year students, like you've said about the dissertation topic, we start talking to them early on as new students about that process. The reflections, again, we have video that's available to them to watch what that whole process is about so that nothing should overwhelm them. And we try to get them, as you indicated, to do the comprehensive presentation or the practicum presentation the summer before it's actually due, which is that 744 course. I've watched some people do it. A good number of students have followed through on what we've tried to get them to do.
Right.
And it just takes the pressure off so that when they enter the fall of their last year in the program, their total concentration is on
Dissertation.
the dissertation.
Absolutely. Agreed.
So when you think about those kinds of things, it's critical to follow the handbook, watch the kinds of supports that are put in place. Talk to us about the application for dissertation candidacy.
So once you have finished your proposal defense, that's paperwork that absolutely has to be filled out. You'll do that immediately following a successful defense of your proposal, which tells us in the university that you're able to complete a study, that your study is substantial and you're able to move forward. It's paperwork that says you're now officially a doctoral candidate. You move from a student to a doctoral candidate.
And there are 3 signatures at least on it before it gets to the director's signature. Am I correct?
That is your committee. So your chair is going to sign it, the student will sign it, as well as the 2 committee members.
Now, we've talked briefly, and we won't get into a lot of detail about this because students will hear these kinds of things, especially as they get concerned about how they will put together a dissertation committee. We will help them do that. Talk to us.
Absolutely. I think the most important thing to understand is that we have a lot of faculty, adjunct faculty, superintendents, different people in the professional field that have their doctorate, have a terminal degree. They're available to our students to be on their committee. That choice is pretty critical. It's something that happens through the chair of their committee as well as myself and their cohort coordinator. So those 3 people will help guide them in that choice. They want to make a good choice. Usually that committee member is going to be somebody who's interested in their topic or who's an expert in the field. The second committee member might be somebody who's a research methodologist, a good APA person, somebody they know that's going to help their committee and help the students succeed. So that's a pretty critical choice, but there's supports and there's people in the full-time staff as well as you and our other personnel that are able to help them make the right choice, because it's actually a pretty important choice.
One of the things that I've shared with students is the importance of trying to have a balanced dissertation committee. Sometimes I've encountered at least 1 or 2 students who wanted to get a friend of theirs that had a doctorate. Well, we still look for the quality, we still look for the kind of commitment, because it is a rigorous process to complete the dissertation.
Yeah, and I would also add that one way to get to know these committee members, we do have a list of them for them to look at, but we have a warrant chart display that occurs in the summer of year 2. And what is going to happen at the warrant chart display is the student's topic will be analyzed and broken down into a flow chart, and we do blow that up into a poster session. So each student in the cohort will have their poster up on an easel, and committee members and chairs will come to that warrant chart display to see the topics, to get an understanding of the person, and meet the student. Make sure they have a connection to see if it's something they would like to do together, and they can possibly think about who would they like to be on their committee. And then the committee members can say, boy, I would really be interested in that student. And it's a great relational building evening and social event surrounding their topics. And it really is a great event. So that will happen in the summer, and it's mandatory for our students as well as people who would like to be on committees.
I remember the first time I went to a warrant chart display. I was so impressed. And when I saw it, and it's like walking into a gallery. And I've worked with some students since that particular time to actually get that warrant chart in the form that's necessary.
Yeah, it's an exciting event because I have to tell you, I really enjoyed it as well. It gives me a chance to see all the different type of work that's going on and some of the high-level research that this university is completing through this program.
The handbook talks about a committee intent to serve form. That's for your dissertation committee. I usually try to get students not to do that at the beginning of their coming into the program. I usually wait a little bit, and there's a time when we begin to seriously talk about it so they can become, as you've indicated, more familiar with faculty members. They can begin to feel their way around the program and begin to have a halfway decent idea as to what they are going to do as a topic. At what point would you say a student should start seriously looking at that committee? Is it the warrant chart, or they should start thinking about that dissertation committee before that?
I would agree. I think one of the mistakes I've seen through the years are students are too quick to choose. I think they need to really think about that, spend the summer, at least a month after the warrant chart display, to really think about, is this the right person, the good fit for me? I will tell you the other person they really need to consult, and this is a really important point, they really want to choose that chair first. That's going to be the point where we have the chair in place, and through the chair you want to choose your committee. That's a cooperative, collaborative type of discussion you would have with the chair or with me as the director as we start to go down that path. But I would take the time, and I would say by fall 1, by probably the middle of the fall 1 semester, you want to have that form ready to roll.
Okay, and that is that intent to serve form.
Correct.
I usually, or at least on some occasions, would tell students they need to, if they're going to pick a chair, run it by the cohort coordinator to some degree, so that person's, or the director, which would be you, so that we have a sense. They should probably also, when they're serious about selecting that person, begin to get an understanding as to the time commitment that that chair is going to give them, especially if it's somebody who's never chaired before.
Oh, that's absolutely correct. The chair has a really important function here. They really have 4 roles, in our opinion, for our program. The first thing they are as a leader, they're going to lead the committee. So all information communication is going to go through the chair. The second function is they are an advocate. There are times when there'll be disagreements about the research, the topic, or some aspect of the dissertation, and the chair is going to be the advocate for the student at that point with the committee, maybe even with me, or maybe even with the university. I also feel that we tell our chairs that they also manage, that's obvious, they're going to manage timelines, they're going to manage paperwork for the student. And then finally, they're a judge, and this is the hardest part for most dissertation students, I'm sure, as you remember, as we both had gone through our dissertation process. But they are a judge, and they're critical, and they're going to be constructive, and they're going to tell you what you need to hear, because the chair's main function is to ensure a quality dissertation is produced by the student prior to approval for defense.
And one of my processes is to make sure that my committee members are on board if I'm chairing the committee, because I respect them. I respect the knowledge, I respect the experience that the other committee members bring to the table. And I want the student to also respect that, because those people have gone through a dissertation process somewhere.
That's correct. I agree 100%, and I think it's critical.
The IRB process, you mentioned IRB, but the IRB is the Institutional Review Board. And that is something that happens here at Point Park University and every university basically that does a dissertation process. But one of the last things I want you to explain to us is what is the certificate that's necessary, the human subjects certificate that all students and the chairs have to complete?
So two things. The IRB process is, you're absolutely correct. The Council of Graduate Schools, we follow their ethical standards for research, and every university requires that process. You cannot begin to collect data till you've been approved by the university through our IRB to say that you may, with this, approval from the university, move forward in your dissertation process. The second piece of this is that certificate. There is a link in our handbook where you have to go through training to understand what it is to conduct ethical research. For example, just one example is you learn what a protected class is. If your study happens to study pregnant women, for example, they are a protected class and you have to go through a full board review of the IRB. That'll all come clear as we go through seminar and you learn about the process, but that certificate, the chair and the student must have completed those annually. They have to be updated every year, and that has to happen every year, and we have to have that on file. So you really cannot start conducting any research until that certificate's complete.
Well, I'm happy you clarified that part. It has to be done every year because I've heard people say it has to be done every so many years, but whatever it takes, it's a process. It is a necessity to make sure. And when students go through their quantitative research course, go through their qualitative research course, when they take advantage of the boot camps that we put at their disposal, they will learn more about the kind of study or a mixed methods kind of study and what could possibly put them over into a questionable type of study with human subjects and how they need to perhaps sharpen their questions to make sure that in most cases they may not have to do that. Small children, as you said, other kinds of things. This is a wonderful process, but what we don't want you to do, we don't want you to get that handbook. And once you get that handbook, you wind up just sticking it on a shelf somewhere or not being able to find it. We want you to pull that thing out from time to time because in the middle of the night, you and I may not necessarily get phone calls from them, but it's a resource. And typically it's been a resource where you can also go to whatever website we've provided for you. Again, we've been using Blackboard the last few years. We're changing that platform where we're going to be going to Schoology, and those same resources are going to be right in that transitional process. We want to make sure that you're on top of everything because we do want you to finish your doctorate here at Point Park University.